Hi hamster lovers and welcome to Pancake's channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some suitable hamster cage options. So whatever enclosure you decide to get, it's important to make sure it's above the minimum enclosure size of 100 by 50 centimeters or 775 square inches. It will also need to have enough space for at least 10 inches of bedding and an 11-inch wheel on top of the bedding. It must also be well ventilated and waterproof so that it's easy to clean. It's important to keep in mind that hamsters are not cheap pets, so a decently sized enclosure will be quite expensive. I think it's better to go straight to getting a large enclosure that's more expensive than a small enclosure that's cheaper. This is because you're more likely to save money in the long run, as you won't have to upgrade their enclosure multiple times. This is because it will be larger and higher quality, so it will last longer and the hamster won't be able to chew out of it. It's also important to note that just because an enclosure is over the minimum doesn't mean that the hamster will be happy, as some hamsters need more space than others. It's also important to make sure you add enough enrichment into the enclosure to make sure that they're happy. So the first enclosure that I'm going to be talking about is the rectangular paw hut, which is 1018 square inches. This is a brilliant enclosure as it's a good size. I would recommend removing the platforms though, as it will give you more space to add more bedding and enrichment. As it's made of wood, it can be difficult to clean if the hamster goes to the toilet on it. For this reason, I would recommend waterproofing it with hamster safe varnish. Plasticoat, clear project enamel and cuprinol garden paint are some good things to waterproof the wood with. The next cage is the hexagonal paw hut, which is similar to the last one, but it has 875 square inches of floor space. As you would with the last one, you'd also need to remove the shelves and waterproof the wood. The next cage is the Night Angel Bigger World enclosure. The medium is 776 square inches of floor space, and the large is about 930 square inches of floor space. This is a great enclosure, however it may not be very sturdy as it's assembled using rubber bands. The next cage is the Night Angel Vista cage. The medium has 848 square inches of floor space, and the large cage has 984 square inches of floor space. This is a brilliant enclosure, however it does have a slanted lid which can make it more difficult to set up, but it will make it easier to access the inside of the cage. The next enclosure is the Roadie Pet Nagarium, I think that's how you pronounce it. The regular is 775 square inches, and the extra large is 930 square inches. This is a similar style to the last one and it's held together using rubber bands, so it may not be very sturdy. The next enclosure is the Mewu Fun wooden hamster cage, which is 775 square inches. This is a similar style to the last two and it's assembled using rubber bands, so it may not be very sturdy. The gap at the top is also too wide, so a Roborovski dwarf could escape from it. The next enclosure is the Book Estate, which is a metal cage and it's 775 square inches or 100 by 50 centimeters. The next cage is called the Hamster Holmes cage. It varies in size from about 90 by 60 by 42 centimeters to 120 by 60 by 52 centimeters. This is brilliant as it's a good size, however just like the paw hut you will need to waterproof it. These cages are available on the Hamster Holmes website. The next enclosure is the Living World Eco Habitat, and the medium's 99.5 by 59 by 61 centimeters and the large is 118.5 by 59 by 61 centimeters. This is a brilliant enclosure, however I have heard that it's a bit flimsy as it's a flat pack enclosure. I think it's nice because it's on wheels. The next cage is the Skyline Marrakech, which is 96 by 47 by 38 centimeters. This is a little bit under the minimum, however it could work. It would be a better idea to join two together though, like this person has done. The next enclosure is the Civic Plaza, which is 775 square inches or 100 by 50 by 50 centimeters. This is a good barred enclosure option, however the base is quite shallow. To help with this, you could put cardboard over the inside of the bars and then add extra bedding. This will help prevent the bedding from leaking out of the cage. The wheel it comes with is also too small, so you will need to replace it with a suitably sized wheel. The next few cages are around 100 by 54 centimeters. Any wheels in these enclosures would need to be removed and replaced with a suitably sized wheel, and all of the platforms should be removed. The base is also quite shallow on all of these, so you will need to put cardboard around the inside of the bars so you can add more bedding. So first we've got the Mamble, the Ritz, the Grosvenor Extra Large, the Kensington, the Volta, the Kerbal Gabia, and the Zoo Zone 2 in large. The bar spacing on top of the Zoo Zone 2 is too wide, so you will need to put mesh over the top of the bars to prevent the hamster from escaping. The next enclosure is a DIY enclosure called the Ikea Lindemann cage. It has 876 square inches of floor space. This is a great DIY cage as it has lots of space. The next enclosure is another DIY enclosure called the Ikea Pax, and it ranges from about 1,361 to 3,366 square inches. This is a brilliant hamster enclosure as it's very spacious, however the bottom can be a bit flimsy. To help with this you could just put some tiles on the bottom. Another DIY cage that you can get from Ikea is the Ikea Detolf. This is only suitable for dwarfs though, and it's about 960 square inches. You will need to make a lid for this enclosure, but there are plenty of tutorials online on how to do this. Next is my favourite type of enclosure, which is a glass tank. As long as the tank's over 100 by 50 centimetres it should be okay. You will need to either buy or make a mesh lid for the enclosure though. There are some hamster tanks that already come with a lid, like Pancake's cage. I like these because they're easy to clean and you can see everything that's inside of it very easily. The final thing I'm going to talk about are plastic bins. I wouldn't recommend making a bin cage for your hamster as they're often too small. It's also quite easy for them to chew out of and escape. It can also be quite difficult to fit all of the enrichment that you need for your hamster inside of them. If you are able to find a bin that's over 100 by 50 centimetres, then that could be a good option. If you're not sure where to get a hamster enclosure from, I'd recommend checking out Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Gumtree, Night Angel or Amazon. Some things that you need to put into the cage include at least 10 inches of bedding, a minimum 8-inch wheel for dwarfs, a minimum 11-inch wheel for Syrians, a large sand bath full of calcium and dust-free reptile sand, multiple different hideouts including a multi-chamber hideout and potentially a ceramic hideout, lots of sprays, forage, foraging toys and hay. Branches are also good to add and they add a nice natural feel to the enclosure. And things like water bowls, water bottles and food dishes. That's the end of this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. Bye!